Can I just say an absolutely massive thanks to Redhills for hosting us this evening for this consultation, because I totally agree. I can't think of a better place to have a conversation about the future of a public service than in a place like this, with so much history of, shaping and moulding public policy and all of the things that so many of us take for granted now. So massive thank you to you, Andrew, and thank you to Redhills for hosting us this evening. I'm going to leave almost all of the time for your contributions, but to give you a little bit of background, I believe that our buses should be publicly controlled. I do not believe that private companies should run our bus services. I think it's time for a change. For 40 years, we have faced the pitfalls of privatisation, where too much of what we spend on our buses publicly is going into the pockets of private companies and into the pockets of shareholders. And they're taking now more public subsidy than they've ever taken before. And I don't think it's unfair to say that they are not running an adequate service. We are not getting the reliability that we deserve. Routes are being cut despite the huge amount of subsidy that we put into trying to keep them afloat. And fares, where they are in control of them, have gone up and up and up and up. And whilst we've taken action locally to cap fares at £2.50 for a single £5 for return, and now nationally we've seen the new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, cap them at £2, which is absolutely fantastic for people at a time when the cost of living is the single biggest issue that we face. We've got such limited power to make interventions when we need to. The only way to get a new route is to pay a bus company to do it. The only way to reduce a fare is to pay a bus company to do it. The only way to get more reliability is to push them and push them and push them. The only way oftentimes to get new and better buses is for us to put more public subsidy in. And so we embarked on the process of bringing the buses under public control on my very first day in office back in 2024. It's a long process. It takes a lot of time. It's a big legal job to do it. And where we are now in that process is public consultation. Now, lots of times when public bodies and elected people do public consultation, they put a survey online, they do it for 6 weeks, and they call it a job done. There's two things. This is a proper conversation with people about what you want to see from your buses. So a huge thank you to you for taking part, because I know it takes a lot of effort to get out here on a, what day is it? It's a Thursday. On a Thursday, a very nice Thursday evening in Durham. But we're not about putting a consultation online and asking people to fill in a survey and excluding people if they can't do that. We'll be doing this properly. Already we've had 3,573 responses to our public consultation. It's been open, I think, for 2 weeks. And we're going to be doing 30 in-person events. So this is one of 30 in-person events. As well as that, we'll have people on the phones calling people. We'll have people out in the streets doing things in public places and making sure that nobody is excluded. And for when you leave here, because you obviously are the people who come to things like this and you encourage your friends and family to take part in it, we want to hear from everybody. So even people who don't use the bus, I want to hear from them about why they don't use the bus and what would help them to make that choice. Because I'll go back to the beginning. A bus is a public service. You should be able to rely on it to get to work, to get to an appointment. You should be able to rely on it to get to college or to get to school or to get to university. You should be able to rely on it to see your friends or your family or go to the cinema or to come to an amazing event at something like Redhills. You should be able to rely on it. That's what it's for. And I can't promise you that it'll change overnight, that it'll transform overnight when we get control of it. But what I can promise you is that if we bring our buses under public control, and it is an if, a decision still has to be made, there is a legal process to follow, then it'll be a service that listens to people. It'll be a service that is run by us in the interests of the people of the region, not in the interests of those who take the profit. So tonight is all about that. I'm here to, yes, of course, I will answer your questions. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. But really what I'm here for is to steal your ideas. So I want ideas from people, to listen to your views and experiences, and to talk about what it is you need from a bus service. And ultimately, that's it. And we've got about 50 minutes. And if you ask a question, if I'm not able to give you an answer tonight, we'll get you the answer, But if that happens, if you can see Emily at the back of the room before you leave, give us a wave. Then she'll get your details so we can get back to you. If you don't want to be on this video or any of the photos, over here is the place to sit for that. And if you wouldn't mind, when you want to contribute, pop your hand up, we'll get a microphone to you. Hugh will bring you a microphone. And if you wouldn't mind telling me who you are and where you're from, that's always really helpful too. I'm going to come down and sit here because it feels a little bit... Who wants to go first? I haven't done anything yet, no need to clap. Right. Who wants to go first? Go on, you go first. Yes, thank you.
Hi, my name is Jill Rogers and I'm from South Hetton, which is on the border of County Durham with the town of former mining community, very close to Easington. We'll all know if we're in the Pitman's department that Easington has featured a lot with their band. I don't use the bus, and the reason I don't use the bus is there isn't a bus. So we have children who come here for sixth form, so they come from South Hetton to go to sixth form. If you don't get the bus at 8 o'clock in the morning, you don't get the bus at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday to Friday, 10 times a week, then no one can come to Durham. Other than going to Hortley Spring or into Peterlee and then travelling on a very circuitous route to get there. The things that I'm here for is, you can see I'm relatively old and I'm retired, and if I wanted to go out on the bus with my bus pass that I'll get in December, then fine, I can find a way to do it because I've got older. I had a friend whose son lost his job because he was late for work 5 times in a month because the bus just didn't turn up, and there isn't an alternative. So we can go to Peterlee, Sunderland, Newcastle, and that's it. You can't get the Durham. And if you live it, obviously, if you work in Sunderland and the one bus an hour doesn't turn up, you're going to be able to work on it. So for me, it's not just about where can I get you on a bus, but it's massively restricting the opportunities for our young people. So even if they come to sixth form because they're really ambitious and they want to go off to university, there are opportunities to get a part-time job, to get on the CV, as emo. Come from a little village and they can't stay after 4 o'clock to get a job in the evening, can't come on weekends, have put on some review consultation. How lovely it would be for the families in South Hetton to be able to take advantage of the Durham Explorer ticket. But we can't. We can't get to Durham to even join the Explorers. So our children are missing out on all of that subsidised heritage right across County Durham because they can't get the bus to catch the Explorer. So my plea is, I'm firmly in your space of privatisation is not the answer because rural communities get left out because we can't make a profit out of them. And the last time I did a consultation, I'll be careful what I say, Boris had taken charge personally and was going to give us £2 billion. And I went to Newcastle and they told us to get used to changing buses to get anywhere but get out of our car, right? So you're dropping your kids off at school and then you've got to run around the corner for a bus that doesn't come and you've got to get to work and you've got to be sure you can get back and pick them up from school. And it takes you 3 changes of bus to get to Newcastle or to get to Durham. It's just not realistic. If we are serious about it, there needs to be some massive changes in the whole mindset, including why it has to make a profit. Because I had people from Gospel saying things like, can you take some buses off? We're sick to death of the number of buses that run through Gospel High Street. We can't get across the road. We've got a metro. We've got about 8 buses an hour. And this lady said to me, you can help me have our buses. Because we've got too many. That's because they make a profit because of all of the population in the streets. I'm going to be quiet.
No, that is, yeah, absolutely agree. I should have just let you do the opening, I think, because actually I should have just let you do the opening, to be honest with you, because I think you've actually articulated the issue so beautifully. The idea that our buses are, I think so many people, particularly if you don't rely on it, you think of it as a thing that gets from A to B. It's the infrastructure of opportunity. And so that's what those young people are missing out on. And for me, I've been to so many different places where I've heard about young people making educational choices on the basis of where they can get to. And that is not how you make your educational choices. You make them on the basis of your ambition. And so you're absolutely right. What I'm taking from you for the consultation response is a bus directly from Hetton to Durham. South Hetton. Sorry, South Hetton to Durham. And also, sorry, I didn't hear you say South Hetton. South Hetton to Durham. And more frequency and reliability, because the lateness is literally killing people's jobs.
It is.
Yeah. No, thank you very much, and thanks for your contribution. I just couldn't agree more with everything you've said. David?
David Taylor Gooby, and I'm very old, so I've experienced quite a lot of things. Just two things. Incidentally, my wife was offered a good job in Billingham when she was young, but couldn't afford the bus fare to get there. And hopefully the £2 cap will stop that sort of thing. Anyway, two things. NHS I was involved in for a long time, but then I was chair of scrutiny for transport for some time. And an issue came up in both. Express buses are usually pretty good. They make a profit. The companies like running them, and they put nice buses on usually. So people do use them. But in Durham we have lots of scattered villages. And I remember on the, like South Hetton, and when I was on the NHS committee, we were looking at ways people could get to hospitals. And we did an in-depth survey of a particular village. I won't say what it was, but it was near Southend.
I think it's okay to say which one.
Well, it has well. And we found that there were 4 people in that village who didn't either have a car, or didn't know someone who had a car, or couldn't somehow get to the hospital. There were only 4. So it's silly to put a great big double-decker bus on to go around there for their sake. And recently, I was in Yorkshire, and because I like public transport, I got on a bus from Ripon to go to York. Well, it didn't just go to York, it went all over North Yorkshire as far as I could see. And what I noticed is that in the big settlements, say like Boroughbridge, a lot of people got on. In all the small settlements, nobody got on. So I just thought it would be better to run the bus direct from Ripon to York and make some other arrangement for these isolated villages. I'm not saying quite what, but you used to have a dial-a-bus scheme. Where my son lives in London, they have a sort of minibus that will go round parts to pick people up. So I think we've got to be quite imaginative about services to outlying villages and settlements, rather than thinking we can have great big buses going around all these places that will be running half empty. So that's really all I want to say.
Thank you. I think that being creative about how we do this. So I think what I probably should have also said up front is we're hyper aware of the need, the urgent need around rural services and the villages. I was out, it was last summer, I lose track, I think it was last summer, in the local elections, and I was door knocking in a place, Whitton-le-Weir, which I'm sure you will all know because you're from County Durham. And it's a beautiful village, and it's not small. It's not really small. It's a decent sized village, church, shop, pub, school, big enough. And there's a beautiful little bus stop in front of the church, and because I like public transport, I went and had a little look, and the only thing on there is a school bus. And I just think, what are we, this is just not, it is not adequate. And so we will have to prioritise improvement of rural services, because I totally get it. If you live in the city of Durham, if you live on Gosforth High Street, if you live on Shields Road, if you live, I would say probably places like Hendon and Sunderland, you've got access to a good bus service, and actually this won't feel as urgent. But if you live rurally, it feels really urgent. There's just nothing. So yeah, thank you very much. Who's next? I don't know what order you put your hands up in, so what I'm going to do is actually just go that way, and then I'll come to you. So I'll come to this lady first, and I'll come to you, and then...
I'm Susanna. I'm from Sacriston. I think they're up there somewhere. The Sacriston Miners seat is up.
Your banner's up there.
Yeah, but I think it's one of the seats then.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, sorry, that's a bit of an aside. I was just picking up on what I think David said before. The problem with small rural areas, I live outside Sacriston, is that the bus service is not good, so people don't use it, so therefore it's cut even more. And they say, okay, there's only 3 people using it,
Vicious
so we'll
cycle.
cut it. And the reason that people don't use it is because A, it's unreliable, and B, it's to go at regular times. But we've got to get people out of their cars, and we need to try, and that to me is just as big an issue here as making public transport really accessible. It's actually stopping people using cars. And a lot of people say, wouldn't you, like get a bus into Durham if it was reliable and if it went at the times I want. And like some places where it only goes twice a day. So I think that's my real concern, is not just accessible, reliable and cheap fares, but it's actually making sure that it's enabling people to have a choice and not having to use their cars all the time.
Completely agree, yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks, Suzanne. If you just pass it down the line, I think the gentleman in the middle. Yeah. You're on.
Do you want me to stand up now?
You don't have to stand up. I'm not.
Hi. My name is Richard. I'm from Durham City. I'm also a member of Climate Action Durham, who's trying to do a lot for transport as well as a lot of other things. Just picking up on what you said about the, well, first of all, the rural communities and also the dial bus scheme. There's a movement called demand responsive transport, which is very successful in a lot of areas around the country, which is a sort of cross between ringing for a taxi and getting a bus. In other words, the routes are flexible. You don't get these large buses trundling through the villages. If there isn't anyone who wants it at that time, it doesn't stop. They tend to be smaller, they tend to be minibuses, and they tend to be most successful when there is a recognised demand for it, like a community that doesn't currently have access, an area where there is poor access for disabled, an area where there's a new development and there isn't a bus, or even for young people who are trying to get into work, as was mentioned before. So a group, or maybe less than a group, of people could have this bus pass by a pickup point all the time. And I would just encourage you and the mayoralty to look into demand responsive transport for particularly the areas that do not have good access to buses. I think it's a very sound system.
I think for us, what we're really aware of on this journey is that, excuse the pun, there's going to be loads of those, isn't there, on this journey, is that we're not Greater Manchester and we're not London. You know, we are not we are not working towards bringing buses under public control in a predominantly urban area. So we will be probably the most rural area that's embarked on something like this. And so the mix of methods, essentially, of running a bus service will be different. And so we'll need to look at things like community schemes. We'll need to look at probably more modern versions of demand responsive, because I know that the kind of dial-a-bus schemes in some parts of the country have been excessively costly. And so we have to get it right. But definitely that mix of different things is going to be really necessary for us. So thank you very much, and I really appreciate your contribution. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Brian. I'm currently residing in Shotton Colliery, but I'm a Washington boy, or I used to be, and identify as a Geordie through parentage, so make it that what you will. And my question...
You always have to be careful with that in Durham, don't you? Because there's always a bit of a mix. Geordies, Madams.
Kind of look around the room and I think probably I'm as quick as most people, so if it comes to that, I'll be away anyway. My question or my comment touches more on confidence than connectivity, which I think has been kind of prevalent so far. So from a confidence perspective, I think there is potential that people can see, and this is based on a little bit of feedback I got from family before I came, so feel free to put me right here. But I think there's at least a perception that transport hubs can be a little bit of a hotspot for trouble or antisocial behaviour, and I wondered how that can be tackled basically to ensure that this, the measures that are taken to encourage people to use transport are kind of catalysts so that that can be taken forward and kind of supercharged rather than just a kind of a short-term measure. So I was wondering, potentially is there some sort of multi-agency approach or something that could be done to let people know that transport hubs and the transport route is a safe haven for people and somewhere that people can feel comfortable from start to finish?
I think it's a really good point, and we've focused actually a lot on public safety on public transport, even without taking control of the buses, because you're right. I think a lot of those interchanges can be hubs for antisocial behaviour. They can be seen as, actually ironically, safe, warm, dry places for people to congregate, and even if that doesn't mean trouble, it can look and feel intimidating. And then on top of that, when you ask particularly women, and I know it's not just women, but you make the world safer for women, you make it safer for everybody, they will tell you that the 3 places that you feel the least safe are on the public transport network at night, in a public park at night, and in the nighttime economy. Those are the 3 things. And so we've prioritised women's safety, knowing that that means safety for everybody. And that kind of multi-agency approach is underway, but it definitely needs to be uplifted. And it definitely needs to be part of our plan. So we'll be doing more about that before we get to the point of public control, and you'll hopefully start to see that. But just one anecdote from me before we move on to the next set of contributions. I was in Greater Manchester recently, in Manchester City Centre, and I'll be there again tomorrow, and I'm sure we're all going to be seeing an awful lot more of Manchester. And we were coming back from our meeting to the train station, and there's, I don't know if anyone knows Manchester, but on the way to Piccadilly there's kind of a big row of bus stops. And there are travel safe officers getting on all the buses. And they were B Network branded. And I just thought, that's what you can do if you've got control of your buses. If you've got control of the fare box and you're in control of the whole operation, and you're not asking Aviva or Stagecoach or Go North East to employ these people, not trying to find alternative funding streams to fund them. But I just remember thinking, that's what you can do. That's what they can do that we can't do. And so I think we'll do something about it before that. But I look at that and think, that's what's possible. Can we come to you? Because you had your hand up, didn't you? Did you in the front here? No? Okay. Sorry, okay. Yeah, that's fine. I'll come to you first then, and then that gentleman there, and then I'll come this way.
So hi, so my name is Tristan, and I'm from South Shields, and I rely quite heavily on public transport. So I work in the Metro Centre, and for 2 years I went to college in Durham, East Durham, in Peterlee. And I really struggled with using the buses because of how unreliable they are. So, for example, I used to have to start quite early in the morning to get to East Durham, right? And I would have to take 2 buses, which neither of them typically ran on time, or if one of them was on time, the one would be late and I would miss a connection, and then the journey, which was already quite long, about 1.5 hours, could take upwards of 2 hours, which in actuality it's not very far away, the distance between South Shields and Peterlee. And then as well, I've got quite a lot of friends who live around Durham from being in a college in Durham, and they all struggle so much with the buses. So, for example, I've got a friend who lives in Trimdon Grange, if you know where that is. Right, he has next to no bus service over the weekend. If he wants to go out, even in the daytime, he has to rely on taxis to be able to get around, and the financial impact of that is massive. Yeah. And then as well, somebody had mentioned the express buses before, hadn't they? And as well, I really struggle with those as well. So from getting to the Metro Centre from Peterlee, rely on the Extend to try and get up, and they would never ever show up on time. And the most difficult thing was that they would never actually tell you when there was going to be a cancellation, when there was going to be a delay. And I think a lot of people struggle with buses not showing up. And it's quite hard to evidence to work, because I know some people have mentioned that they get into quite a lot of bother at work from being late. Luckily, my employer is quite flexible with it. They understand that a lot of people struggle, but either way, it's still not really fair that we have to face that impact. And it's like, they can only be so flexible with us not being able to actually evidence those. Because I suppose, like, if they're not going to evidence it, then anybody can lie and say, "Oh, the bus hasn't shown up." It's like, where does the line get drawn with that? So my 2 main things are just going to be how how long will it take for the buses to be made more reliable? How long will that change take? How are the bus services going to be improved across rural areas? And as well, is there any possibility of a 24-hour bus service being introduced? Because I think, in a lot of areas up and down the country, they have that facility. And I think, given that we have 4 major universities up here, it would be a really good service to introduce, because as well, a lot of students have to rely on things like taxis to be able to get around, and that, some people feel quite unsafe doing that, and as well, the financial impact of that is crippling. So what changes are going to be made for that?
Well, that's kind of what this is about. So that's kind of what I'm asking you. So what I'm going to do is take your questions as ideas, if that makes sense. So I think, I can tell you that the timeline for public control, so I legally have to say, should we make the decision to bring your buses under public control, and there is still a decision to be made, then we'll start running the first publicly controlled buses at the back end of 2028, probably early 2029. That's how long it takes. So bear in mind, I started that process in 2024, and we will have been the quickest by then. So it took Greater Manchester 8 years to do it. So we'll have done it in around about half that time. And so that's when we'll start to run our services. In the meantime, what we do is I hold monthly meetings with the bus services and really try to hold them to account on their reliability and all of that kind of thing. But they don't have to do it. And they don't have to improve those services. I mean, I do believe they try because it impacts their profits, but I can't, the levers that we have available to us at the moment, and things like night buses, they have to be an ambition, but we also have to be realistic about the size of the financial package available to us and getting the profit to run back into the service in order to grow the service. So, yeah, I think we're hyper aware of the need for night services and expanded services and all of that kind of thing as well. So thank you very much for your contribution. I think that there are countless students out there, and I lived it even all those many years ago, 2 buses to get anywhere and not necessarily reliable, and you can have the most understanding employer in the world, but they've still got to run their organisation. And so, yeah, completely. One thing I would say is we last month launched our new integrated transport website, and that has all of the live information on it. So that's much better than having to track all of the individual sites. So we'll get the details of that to you, because you might find that really helpful. Thank you. I'm going to come here, and then I'm actually going to go over here, because I think these people have been waiting a while, and then we'll come back round. And I'm going to be really polite the way I say this, because I'm the worst for talking too much, but if the quicker we can be, the more people can talk. Thank you.
So I wanted to basically just give an idea of just how bad it is working on weekends because of the buses. So I'm based in Newcastle, and I have to work at Dalton Park as part of my job. Being a student as well, because I'm working part-time at Dalton Park, some days are my main days, so the weekends. And getting to Dalton Park on weekends from Newcastle can be...
getting to where?
Dalton Park.
Yeah, got you. Thank
It can be an absolute nightmare, because the only bus on a weekend or on Sundays where you can get to Dalton Park from Newcastle is the X10 by going north east. They've recently changed the timetable where it operates every 2 hours. So if that bus is cancelled or you miss it, you've got to wait ages. If I'm unlucky enough to get a shift before the bus arrives, it's an hour and a half, an hour before the shift I can get there. I've either got to get the early bus, wait an hour, or I've got no choice but to travel to Sunderland through the either 56 bus or through the metro. Sometimes those get cancelled, the metro has works, the bus might be cancelled. And if that happens, I have no choice but to get a train to Seaham and get a bus from Seaham there. It's an absolute nightmare.
Thank you. Thank you. I think those are a series of just, unenviable situations that you find yourself in. Thank you for sharing that, and we'll get that all taken on board. Thank you. Hugh, I'm going to come over here, because I think you've had your hand up for a little while. Here, here, and here. We'll do this side, then we'll go to the middle, and then we'll come back over here.
Thank you. Hi Kim, I'm Liz Fisher. I live in Gateshead, on the boundary of Gateshead and Durham, and I work in Newton. And I get a bus to work at Horns, because it takes over 3 hours.
Close the team round. And I couldn't afford it because it's about 3 different changes, so it's really, really difficult. We had a team meeting in Newcastle, so the whole team from Durham came up to Newcastle. I was the latest to arrive, but I was the closest there because I took my bus off. So the bus service is a shambles. But my question is, you talked about this being a long process, and with the consultation, how are you involving people with learning disabilities and disabilities to be part of this? Because I know they rely on public transport. They would have lots of ideas, but I don't know how they're going to get involved.
So we've got special sessions, haven't we, for, so the transport team are over here. Wait. Thank you. So they're in charge of making sure that we're doing all of that. So basically we're working with groups who represent people with disabilities, people with learning disabilities, older people. So when we are inviting people either to these consultations or we're running specific events and specific more accessible surveys to be able to collect the views of people who we know disproportionately actually rely on public transport. So it is all considered and something that, I'm really passionate about. We did, when I first got elected, we did the local transport plan. So that's kind of the bigger transport consultation. And we were really meticulous in trying to make sure that that was as representative of the people of the region as possible. Because, and this is actually a really good, really quite mixed and diverse room, but quite often in the past when we've had transport consultations, it is invariably around 70% men who will take part in the consultation. And so, we've worked really hard to try and address that, and addressing that discrepancy with people with disabilities, people from ethnic minority backgrounds, people who rely more on the bus service, and also a specific survey as well for young people, because we want to get young people's views, because it's their service of the future that we're shaping. So thank you, and that's how we're doing it. Thank you.
So hi Kim. My name's Liam Wetherill. I'm the manager of Wheels to Work County Durham. And lots of things that I'm hearing in the room today, I hear every single day. People phone us up, I can't get to work, I've been offered a job on Monday, I have no idea how I'm going to get there, I'm used to using the buses, I live in Bishop Auckland. How am I going to get there? Because I start at 6 o'clock at Amazon and there's no way I'm going to get there at all. So they'll come to us and we provide transport, personal transport for people, because we fill the gaps today the public transport can't fill in County Durham. We've also put nearly 400 bicycles into County Durham in the last 2 years, giving people bicycles to get to work, get to volunteering, get to education. I've had lots of people who use our scooter services, South Hetton, they use us, different places all around County Durham. So we're very successful, we're a very small charity. One thing we need to be able to do the great work that we do in County Durham is support, financial support. And community transport is the same across the board, but for us, the people that we are able to help every day only comes because we get funding as a charity from different places, but all the money's drying up. For every application that we'll put in, there'll be another 20 people after the same piece of money, and I know one of the 20 is going to get it. And we're not the sexiest charity in the world. But all I want to know is...
I totally disagree.
No, I would agree with you on that. But what I need to know is, can NAMCA help us?
Well, we can definitely look at it. Do you know that we've got our community fund out now?
Yeah. Applied to that.
Yeah, the cost of living fund. So it sounds very much like you would be well in the kind of ballpark.
But we probably need about 20 times as much as is available.
I totally understand that. And obviously that's the tricky thing, because there are fewer grant-giving organisations, give it with less money available, and sort of it becomes really, really difficult. But yeah, we can definitely have a conversation after this.
Let me just give you a quick example. I had a guy phone me today. He wants a bicycle because he's walking 7 miles to work and 7 miles back. That's just one of the calls we get every day. That's County Durham and public transport deficiency.
No, well, I'm glad
We applied for the community fund, and we'll have a conversation, but thank you so much, and thanks for what you're doing, because it does make a huge difference. If we come down here and then we'll go this way. Thank you.
Hi Kim, my name's Anthony. I'm from West Midlands originally. I've been up here a couple of years.
You're like proper representing there, Anthony.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely, we absolutely love it up here. So it's great. But buses, are a real problem. We live out in Bowburn, which isn't, it's only 4 miles from Durham, and it's on a main road. We've also got, like, you mentioned Amazon down there. There's loads of people who work down there, and then there's a big Integra 61 place, development. So the bus service at the moment isn't nearly good enough for the businesses that are in that area. I did have a quick conversation about another matter with the manager at Amazon, and he said that they'd had attempts before with the Reaver to try and sort out a better service, and that hadn't happened. So hopefully that might be one thing. But also for leisure travel, which is my main concern, early morning and late evening services are very non-existent, especially at weekends, which affects coming out into Durham for a night out, going long distance to go to the villa, or if you're having like a day out somewhere, can't get back, or into Durham to connect with the rail services. So that connectivity into international rail is really important as well. So just the last point as well I wanted to pick up on was about like a suggested new route where you could have like one of these X services, the express services, maybe from like Darlington up to Durham, and so that would give you connectivity into the businesses and that are along that route, but also leisure travel either going north or south to the mainline stations in Durham or Darlington. I mean, like parking, 16 quid at Durham with LNER, or £12.50 at Darlington. It puts people off. I think you get a bus, much better.
No, thank you very much. And actually, one of the things we haven't talked about yet is that integration. So the integration of services is going to be really necessary, because as it stands, we don't really have fare integration yet. We will get it. We don't have, oftentimes, unless it's at a specific bus interchange, we don't necessarily have the integration in terms of different modes that we need. And I use an example all the time. I live in a village in Northumberland, and I can get a bus directly to Newcastle, but it takes too long. It takes over an hour. That bus goes through Morpeth, and if it stopped at Morpeth station, it would cut my journey by 25 minutes. But it doesn't go anywhere near Morpeth station. And I think that that's a lot of people's experience, is that, I wouldn't mind changing on the train because it would cut my journey by 25 minutes. But it doesn't. And that's, it happens in Durham, it happens at Chesterley Street, it happens everywhere, where you've kind of got buses that take longer and they don't go anywhere near. So I think looking at that kind of integrated service has got to be a big part of what we do. And I think your point about, the routes adapting to new big business, where particularly if you think about Amazon, it is what we would call at least the everyday economy. Like, a lot of the people who work at Amazon will want to rely on public transport, and if they can't, then that is bad for those people, and arguably bad for the region's economy. I have my own views on whether I think Amazon should probably be paying for some buses, but that's probably a different consultation on a different day. Come to you.
I'm Alex from Pelton Fell near Chestnut Street. I think we ought to give you congratulations on one thing that you've done already, which is create the Durham Day Rover bus ticket, which has, for the first time, enabled people without needing to buy an Explorer ticket that covers the whole region, travel locally within Durham from one side to the other for £5 a day to £6 a day. It's a very good value ticket, and also is your day saver at £7.50, including time we're in Northumberland. So that's been a great improvement. I have a problem with buses in my local area, that there's no service on a Sunday evening. There is every other night, but I happen to go to church on a Sunday evening, and I can get there all right, but I can't get back. I'm going to walk or get a lift, or worst of all, have to persuade my wife to borrow the car, which is not a good thing from my point of view, environmentally. I just wanted to suggest that demand-responsive transport is not the answer. There are so many schemes all over the country that have been funded with vast amounts of money from the Department for Transport, at least one part of the Department for Transport. And T's Flex is one of them, for example.
Yeah, that's the example.
Which is not
that
what
we
it
know.
was.
That's the example that we know has been cost prohibitive. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they pick up a passenger from A to B, then they drive empty to C, pick up one passenger from C to D, and then go on to E and pick another person up from E to F. It's daft using a 16-seater or 20-seater minibus for doing that. You might as well give people an Uber voucher and say, just ring up Uber and book your taxi, you know, and do it at much less cost, seriously less cost, than employing a bus driver to drive a bus around empty all day. So I think there are so many things that could be done better. But I don't like demand responsive transport because you usually have to book 3-4 days or even 2 weeks in advance to get the bus to come collect you. Whereas if you just have a normal bus service, you know what time it runs, you can think, oh, there's a bus in 10 minutes, I'll nip out and get that.
Yeah.
Much better. You don't have to worry about that. And personally, I find reliability on the local route of my area very good. I've lived where I am now since the end of March, and although the bus comes direct from Newcastle Eldon Square, I haven't actually had any occasion where the bus hasn't turned up at all. And I think if people know how to use bustimes.org, which is a very easy, it's not even an app, it's a website, you can see where your bus is and all the other buses in the area coming around very easily. It helps navigate the bus network considerably more easily.
Well, thank you so much. I think that it is that for us, it's the mix of different types of transport that we're going to need to look at the whole region. And there might be elements of different types of demand responsive that work some places, but the same example is the one that we looked at. And certainly when I was doing the manifesto to become mayor, we looked at different methods before we started to make promises. And that Tees example was, I think there was a cost that was something like £30 a journey was the cost to the public person. Obviously that's not something we can do, but we do need to look at all the options. So thank you very much. And yes, the day rovers are really good. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. My name's Chris. I live in Hortonley Spring. I'm currently not a public transport user, but I will be from next year. I've got 2 questions, but I'll do them nice and quick, relating to the same topic. So you may know that in autumn of next year, HM government will be moving nearly 16,000 of my colleagues to Newcastle City Centre. So that's colleagues who are currently based in Washington, Waterview Park, and Benton Park here in Long Benton. And we will be all using public transport because we'll have to. There's no parking as we're used to in our current locations. So the questions, two questions are, first of all, how confident are you that the infrastructure as it is at the moment will hold up when we all move in autumn of 27? And what opportunities do you think the franchising will bring for my government colleagues come the end of 28 or early 29, whenever you said it couldn't be brought in by? Thank you.
I think they're great questions. So I'm confident that we're doing the work to get the infrastructure into the right place. So the conversations with the bus companies, obviously with Nexus and the Metro, are all completely underway because we're conscious that, I mean, the thing is, we should say we want those people to come into the city. We want you all in the city centre because it's great. But absolutely, the transport infrastructure needs to be absolutely where it should be. And so we're doing the work with the transport network to make sure that it does stand up to those people coming in. And I think, you know, in many respects, you've kind of answered your own question with the franchising thing. You know, at the moment, we put, I think, around about £100 million of subsidy into the bus company, 107? 125. Look at that. Yeah, £125 million of public subsidy into those bus companies every single year. Imagine if that went back into the network, you know, and they weren't skimming off 20% of it. And then imagine if we were able to drive up patronage. So to give you a bit of context, us capping the bus fares at £2.50, so government raised the cap to £3, we capped them at £2.50. It's really expensive. It costs us £32 million, but it's worth every penny because we've seen a 9% increase in the number of people using the bus as a direct result. And so you can imagine they're going to be capped at £2 from January. Hopefully we'll see that again. And for us, that will be money that we take back from the fare box, and that's when we can start to invest in routes, invest in fares, invest in more reliability. So that will be the benefit for us. Thank you. Right, I think you had a question here, and then we'll move backwards, and then we'll go over to the left again. My left or right.
Lovely, thank you.
Seats, the seat, every time somebody slams one of those seats, I think I've been shot.
It was great timing, though. Hi, so my name is Ade Adioye, and I'm the president of the student union for Sunderland University.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you, and I'll be taking the bus back to Sunderland after this, so wish me luck. Being a student, most people think that if you're a student, it means you're just young people, but our students aren't just young people. People like David here, who has so much experience, is also a student sometimes. So if you do want to come to our university, David will still have you. Oh, well, okay. I did not know that, but thank you for that, David. The experience with buses for students, because sometimes there are options if you're younger, if you're a young person, but if you are a student and you've aged out of that, you kind of get forgotten. You know, so the experience that students have when using the bus is not always great. Just this week, we have 2 routes that we rely on here in Sunderland University for students. That's the 700 and 701. They changed the bus drive, they changed the bus company, right? They changed the bus times. Nobody knew, no information, students were late. You know, we had to start scrambling. And even up till now, you know, students are still affected. So I guess long and short of it is, you have students in this plan. You have it in mind. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to cheekily a little bit, as your job is to represent the student body at Sunderland, throw it back to you and say, please get the student body to take part in this consultation, because it's going to be so critical. Obviously, you're right, we've taken action for younger people, and obviously a lot of young people are students. So for under 22s, it's £1 for the bus at a capped fare, which is great, and a maximum of £3 a day, regardless of where you travel in the region. So really important. And definitely, we have ambitions to look at how we support people who are students or who are participating in skills training, who aren't necessarily under 22. So I think that's really important too. But your point about communication when there is a change, or just the reliability that, you know, something is actually working, and so why is it being changed? Because it's clearly not being changed in the interests of the student body who predominantly use it, I think is a really, really good point, and something that we can take onto the consultation. But please, 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 please do circulate the consultation amongst your student body. Let's hear from them, because we know that, I mean, most students don't have a car, you know, and that's the case whether it's Durham, Sunderland, Newcastle, wherever it is, and so certainly all of our colleges. And so it's really going to be very important to hear their views and experiences.
If I may be so bold.
Go for it.
So our student union presidents, I've met with them, and we are coming together to come up with can we have a meeting with you?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Lovely.
Welcome to University of Sunderland.
Thank you.
Emily, we're going to University of Sunderland. Okay. I've not managed to keep a track of who put the hand up when. I'm very sorry.
Kim, my name is Steve, and I fully support what you're trying to do. I think it's a great idea, long overdue. I live in Durham City, and I'm part of a group working on trying to improve the air quality in the city. Because many of our streets in the town are through roads for vehicles, and the levels of pollution are 4 times higher than the World Health Organization standards, twice as high as EU levels. So we've got highly polluting air that we're breathing. We've got primary schools in our street. We've got thousands of young people walking down our streets during term time. So our plea is, please don't forget Durham City for electric buses, because according to the transport models, 60% of the pollution is due to old buses.
Yeah, the old diesels, and we're trying, you know, we've got an ambition to have a fully green fleet in the region by 2030. And I think that's really critical. But what I would say, and I don't mind saying this, but Durham Council, the new Durham Council administration, they object to the electric buses, and it's very hard to understand why. Because if you've been on one, it's like a transformed experience. It's lovely, it's quiet, it's going in, it's chilled. Well, you get on one of those old diesels, and I just think it makes you never want to get the bus again, whereas those beautiful new electric ones are great. So, it's really important that we shout out for the positive changes we are making, because it makes a big difference to the experience of getting the bus.
Great. Three more points.
I know it's an anti-net theory, I know. But yeah, it's unnecessary. They now have longer ranges than ever before. The depots are all being switched over, and we're paying for that. We're paying bus companies to do it, but I'm glad we are, because it makes a huge difference.
One of the things which I think is really important is to get people out of cars into buses. And ways to do that is having expressways for buses to move quickly and not wrap up in the congestion, or having traffic filters during peak times which allow buses to move but not through traffic. The third point I want to make is I had a discussion with a friend of mine that worked in Durham on buses, and I asked them about the reliability of buses, and they said the two main problems are old vehicles continuously breaking down, and secondly, bus drivers calling sickies and having replacement staff to cover that. And I think that's important to drill down into the weeds to work on that. It's a common problem. Everyone says the problem is reliability of buses, and no buses at all. And then finally, I was chairing a meeting in the town hall on clean air a couple of weeks ago, and the governor of one of the local comprehensive schools said, our big problem is getting young students to school on time. If they don't get to school on time, they don't... We didn't turn up. Okay, Thank you. A really important point that they put over was, if students don't get to school on time, they don't go for that day, and because they're repeat offenders because of the bus, they don't go to school. And she was absolutely convinced that the reliability of getting young people to school is a major issue in the North East, not just her comprehensive school. These are kids that miss out, and when they miss out, they're lost. Many of them will be lost.
Yeah, completely. It's definitely that's definitely a theme. So on the bus drivers, so one thing that's really important, we're working with the trade unions as we do this. So talking with the trade unions that represent the staff that work for the bus companies, because they will naturally they need reassurance that this is going to be better for them and not worse. So absolutely. And on bus lanes, it's an issue I'm hyper aware of, and I'll not lie. New bus lanes is something that councils have really shied away from in recent years, and councils of all colours, because what some political forces have managed to do is turn this issue into a car versus everybody else. And it is not, this is about choice and options, and making sure that people have the choice to be able to use a bus. And you're right, we are going to need, in order to make the bus service work better, we are going to need better bus lanes as well, and that's going to be part of this process. Right, we've got 3 minutes to go. It's flown, hasn't it? I am hyper-conscious that you were all giving up lots of your time, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3 at once, and we're going to be quick fire. And I know some of you, and I know you're not known for quick fire, so I'm asking you nicely, so come on, let's go for it. 1, 2, 3, and then we'll come over here.
Mine will be quick. It's listening to the questions. I've got something hopeful or an idea. In North Tyneside Public, I'm from the Public Transport Users Group. You might have seen us downstairs. My name's Paul Baker. In North Tyneside, we've had a thing called a forum, which we run jointly with the council, with Nexus, with Metro. You wouldn't have the Metro here, but with rail executives, bus managers, and the public. We do this 4 times a year, and you get this range of questions and answers directly to the people. So it doesn't always, every problem doesn't get redressed, but I think that might be, if we could universalise that around the region, that would be a good idea.
Brilliant, thank you.
Feedback from the canvas. Vicky and I have been doing it for 5 weeks in support. Half, not only aren't online, they didn't know about the consultation.
Well,
The survey,
we're doing our best.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
meant helping. Criticism.
No, we're doing our best to get it out as far and wide. Thank you. Right, next one here, this gentleman here, and then at the back, and then I'm coming here.
A lot of years ago, when I was a relatively young man, I was going to train to be a teacher at Sunderland and do a PGCE. Just before I was due to go, my dad died very suddenly of a heart attack, so I didn't go. Now, at that time, I could have travelled to Sunderland in an hour and a half. 3 years later, they deregulated the buses, and it took 2.5 hours now to get to Sunderland from Concert. So, as a result, loads of kids are being priced out of going to university because they could live at home and travel, but we're having accommodation costs as well. So it really is, and it comes down to motivating the kids and at school and things. And second, there's a lack of synchronisation between buses on a night. Now I'm going to go back to Concert tonight, and I'm going to have to wait 55 minutes for a bus down the Delves. So you've got 3 options: sit for nearly an hour, go to Wetherspoons for an hour, or get a taxi.
I feel like I know what you're going to do.
But it's but what we need is faster, more direct services.
Yeah.
Particularly in areas of health and education. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a really good point. Thank you for sharing that. And you're right. It is the infrastructure of opportunity, because if I knock on 10 doors and some of them are the most affluent in the region and some of them are the poorest, the children behind those doors will have the same ambitions, but they will not have the same opportunities, and the bus is part of that. Thank you.
Good evening, Kim. Thanks very much for allowing this. It's really brilliant what you're doing. And I applaud you for what you're doing, getting buses back. My name's Alan Keller. I live in Blackhall. And my biggest concern is Arriva. The 24 service is a diabolical shame. And what I will give you credit for as a mayor, Kim, when I copied you into emails, you got back within 3 days. That is good. What I cannot understand with Arriva, they did an investigation twice. I never got to report that investigation, but what we're looking at here is the future of the children going to colleges, going to Teesside, going to Sunderland, going to Peatley. You've got a special bus service on for Othel and everything. One thing we were talking about with buses is, where was the quality impact on the customers? That is never taken into consideration by Arriva or any buses. The public-owned companies line the pockets of shareholders, and it's all going back. And you go to Europe, your fares is 25 to 30%, the same as utility bills. We've got to have a bus service that is fit for a purpose. I've had 3 experiences, one in November with Arriva. What annoys me most of all is Durham County Council has a lot to answer when the buses going from a platform, or stance as they would say, they never tell you to change the stance. No. Right? And I was stood there and waiting for it. They said they got you. And it's a responsibility. We need to tackle these bus companies totally head on, and I believe you're doing the right course of action. And Arriva on the 23 and 24 service on the Durham coastal area to Blackhall has the lowest performance of 73%. Now then, I went online, I'm going to try and keep this as short as I can. I went online, Kim, to ask for the performance of Arriva. They don't give you one. You've got to go through Durham County Council. When I rang up today for Durham County Council, I can't give you one. You've got to have a Freedom of Information Act for it.
I think we can probably get that.
Right? I would appreciate that, Kim.
Can we get that?
Yeah.
I'm asking the team in front of me.
Oh, sorry?
We'll give it a go for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
At the end of the day, Kim, it's our children's, grandchildren's, and the people that's working now, no matter where you are, accessibility comes at a cost. And the only person that's making a profit out of this is the bus companies by not providing their services.
Totally agree. Thank you very much. Thank you. And we'll follow that up with you afterwards. Now, you have waited so patiently for such a long time, so can we come over here? And then I'm going to give you the last word in a minute. Well, I'll probably have the last word here.
Hi, I'm Chris from Business Durham, and I cover the southwest of the county, so there's a lot of rural from Aycliffe right through to Redhill and Teesdale. It's just really a request for you to engage with businesses on key employment sites because a lot of people can't get to shifts, start times, etc., as well as sort of from the west of the county. So it's just really to engage with those employees to see what's needed and what times and what services are required. There's a lot of people that can't realise their ambition because they can't get to the sites, the large employment sites.
No, that's great. So we have gone out with this to the TUC, the CBI, the Chamber, the FSB, Entrepreneurs Forum, so all of the major membership organisations, as well as through sort of our own networks of kind of businesses that we've worked with. But if you, through Business Durham, have got a network, then please do share it with them and ask them to take part in it, because it is, and ask them to share it with their employees, because honestly, the more data we've got, the better. So thank you, and I totally agree with you. I'm going to give this gentleman down here the last word. So no more hands, unfortunately. This is it, and we're only, due to my terrible chairing, we're already 4 minutes over. So.
Right, I'll be very quick. Many of the issues that have been raised are going to take months, if not years, to resolve. I've got one that I can suggest to you, that on the side of every bus, certainly those that receive any kind of public subsidy, there is written in very large letters, if you've got a problem or a compliment with this service, contact this email address or this telephone number. And then you will be able to get the data store directly to your office or the other local authorities as part of the combined authority network, and we will have some facts as to the performance of the buses. All of what you've heard I can echo as a Bourne resident. Arriva is diabolical. Their vehicles are at least 20 years old in main. The crews do a magnificent job keeping them going, but most of them should be in Beamish. But see if you can get us some communications with those poor bus riders where we can actually make a complaint, follow it up, have it registered by email chains and so on. And then we will be able to demonstrate beyond any doubt that your plea for a politically controlled bus network in the northeast of England is justified one.
Thank you. Do you know what the sad thing is? I wish I could make them do that, but I can't. I can't even say to them, you know, you must display your contact details and your complaints and all that kind of stuff. What we can do though is, and I think you're right, is push hours more and be clearer about how you get in touch with us about it. So I think it's a great point. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. That has been, I think, has everyone found that a bit cathartic as well? Good, that's good, that's good. That's what we want for a Thursday night. You've got it all off your chest. And you are right in what you're saying. Change takes a long time. And the process of getting control of our buses takes a long time. But we're getting there and we're doing it and we're moving as quickly as possible and making sure that it genuinely is, you know, as driven by the public as we can. So thank you so much for coming out on this lovely Thursday evening. If you do have to wait for a bus, Durham does have some wonderful establishments, so enjoy. And yeah, if you have any more questions or you want to talk to our team, we've got our transport team over here, and we've got Emily from my office at the back, and the guys with the cameras are also all great to chat to you, and Georgina's down here. So we'll stick around for a few minutes, and yeah, Have an absolutely lovely evening. Much appreciated.